We're just gonna step right into my brain. A few days ago, I saw this trend. I cannot shake it from my head ever since I saw it. Have you ever screenshotted something on your phone knowing that it's just going into the abyss of your camera roll and like nobody's ever gonna see it? You're not even gonna reference it ever again. Or some other random quirk that you're like, this is just me who does this, right? Okay, there's this trend going around and it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, and basically what it is that people are sharing these quirks and then other people are stitching the video and saying, no, 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 I have that quirk too. And the punchline or the hook of the whole thing is that there's no unique experiences anymore. It's this like, it's not an original experience, there are no original experiences thing. And as I was watching it, I was like, whoa, that's such an amazing anthropological case study almost, because we're in this time period where there is the highest number of loneliness that's ever been recorded in human history. And at the same time, social media exists, which is one of the greatest connection tools that's ever been created. And in the middle, we have this paradox. People feel really lonely, but they have way more access to connection than they've ever had. And they're developing trends out of this, finding these common threads in what used to be their closeted, quote unquote, like weirdness. I just like sat with this thought and I was like, this is so amazing and like interesting and so cool to watch it play out. And then part of me had this thought where I was like, I bet nobody else is sitting here and like diving this deep into this random internet trend. They're probably just scrolling away. And then I realized, I had a very meta moment. I am being the trend in this moment because I'm feeling like I'm having a totally original experience. And I essentially wanted to put it out to you all to see, am I having an original experience? Or did anybody else see that trend and think, this is so ironic given the playing field that we all occupy in social media and online. So anyway, I just couldn't shake it. I thought it was so interesting. And then it kind of spiraled this like research reflection vibe that I was going on. I have so many thoughts, so let's just get into them. The biggest thing that I thought was really interesting was the comment section because it was so full of other people voicing their validation. I think there's something so comforting about being seen in this moment. You're sharing this unpolished, private moment and it's reaching somebody else who said, you're not alone, I do that thing too, and we're getting this like instant connection even if you never even know that person past a username. That to me is insanely fascinating, but it's especially interesting to me when you think about it through the lens of people in their 20s. So much of your 20s is spent asking like, is it just me? Am I the only one going through this? Everybody else seems to have it together. Am I feeling like this and nobody else is? Or is everybody feeling like this but we're not supposed to say it? Or is everybody struggling but only in these like specific mainstream ways like rent or something like that? And my more obscure struggle isn't really cute, right? A huge one that comes to mind is credit card debt. So many people I know have really, really, really high credit card debt, really, really, really struggle with their credit card debt, are trying to work through it. I myself have dug out of credit card debt twice now, and that's like a whole chapter of my life that I try to blur over and then realize like, no, I need to not blur over it. It is something that is such a shared experience. It's just like a taboo or a hush-hush experience. You get this moment of relief, right? Where you're in the comment section or you post something and someone stitches it and you get this moment of relief where you're like, wow, it's not just me. But then it's not like that's the tonic for loneliness of the population, right? Like that feeling is always there. It always creeps back in. It's always just beneath the surface. Why? And like, how do we approach it? How do we even talk to that? And that kind of sent me into this next piece. This is when I really came up with the loneliness paradox as a phrase, right? If 1 in 3 people who are around like 18 to early 20s feels lonely most or all of the time, there is something deeper going on that social media and access to a connection tool isn't the tonic for and isn't going to be a solution for. Young adults score higher in loneliness than older adults. And what's interesting is we now are talking about generations who are pretty much split by technology. So we have these young adults who are scoring higher than older adults despite having access to more connection tools. And even the ties that they do have, they report having fewer ties, weaker ties, even with their own families. And then you can talk about, there are these delayed milestones that people may have heard their parents hitting at a certain age or their grandparents hitting at a certain age that just like aren't happening, right? Owning a home, getting married, having a family, like those are all things that now are trending more into like mid, even late 30s, especially for owning a home, if happening at all. Really what it brought me to is that loneliness isn't really about being alone. It's about not feeling seen. And I think that social media is a great example of that because while it's an amazing connection tool, it's also so heavily filtered. Even in moments that it's raw and real, it's edited. Great example, I just had to get up and get my kid another snack, and then I sat back down and I jumped right back in. I'm gonna snip out that whole thing. You're never gonna see it. Does that take away from the genuine aspect of this? Right? I shoot all my videos and I want all of this to feel like you and I are just hanging out. Like, I'm your bud, you pose this question, and I'm just brain dumping onto you. And does some of that take away when I snip out different words, or does it fortify the message? Like, there's a huge conversation to be had around things like that. So I don't know that that's necessarily fits into this in like a nice little way, but it did make me think about it, and it did bring it up for me in terms of the tools that we have that are built for connection. How much are they really connecting us versus how much are they building facades? And so I think this trend is a great example of ripping that facade away. But then that feeling comes creeping back in, right? And so shared experiences don't inherently mean connection. You can have this comment section that is loudly other people voicing out that they have the same experience, and that can make you feel validated in some ways, but at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, you're not going further than a username. So you're not actually building a relationship with someone, despite the fact that you may have this connecting point with them. Having this resonance with people, but it's devoid of intimacy, I think that's a gap. Right? We're starting to see that just because other people can say, yeah, me too, doesn't necessarily mean that they are seeing you. 1,000 people can have the same experience, but they don't know you. You know, I can speak from experience when I was an influencer, right? I had connection points to 50,000 people. I had the ability to speak to those people every single day if I wanted to. Did it make me feel less alone? No. I was in a relationship with someone who, as a person, is a wonderful person, but who I never felt truly seen by, because I felt like I played this role from day one, that even 5 years into our relationship, 6 years into our relationship, I was still dressing up and playing this role. And when I look back at like those seasons of my life, I wonder how much of becoming an influencer and stepping into that world was about wanting to find connection rather than sharing an experience. I briefly touched on like influencer versus content creator in a previous video, and I really think that it was an influencer world that I was previously in because it was for me, and I was trying to build this relationship. I remember even thinking that I would be able to build relationships really easily with other influencers in New York, which did happen, but I wouldn't say it was really easy. Influencer schedules are all over the place, and I also had a 9-to-5 job at the time. So, you know, I don't think my 20s was devoid of loneliness just because I had 50,000 followers and a boyfriend. If the formula was that easy, I don't think the statistics would look the way they do. So this is kind of a nice segue into a new series that I'm going to be doing. You're going to see it on Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram. So follow me on any of those platforms if this interests you. But something I've always done is been deeply, deeply, deeply introspective about my emotions. I want to know why I feel what I feel, exactly why, and I want to get really into it. And so one of the things that I ask myself whenever I have a strong feeling is, what is this telling me? What is this teaching me? When we talk about this whole trend and the connection points and this loneliness paradox, what is loneliness telling us? When we feel that feeling, why? What is that bringing up? And I don't think it's specifically like you don't have a best friend. I think that's too simple. I think that's too surface level. I think it goes deeper than that. I think that loneliness is a signal that any connections you do have aren't to the depth that you need. I don't think that this is a failure on your part. I don't think this is like a personality flaw that you have. I think that people are looking for connection in different ways and at different depth. There is an inherent level that we each need to reach, and maybe that friend that you have who's your best friend's childhood doesn't have the same depth or the same reach that you want or need. Or maybe you are in a relationship and you feel like you just can't go there with that person. Maybe your relationship with your parents is really heavily built on perfectionism, so you don't really get that depth of being able to go to them and telling them that you I remember feeling like I needed to be perfect my whole life, which is really interesting because I don't think my parents ever really put that on us, but I had 4 siblings and they were all so smart, and I kind of always felt like this little black sheep in the corner that wasn't that great. And I also was the middle child, so that dynamic played into it. I remember feeling unable to tell my parents that I had credit card debt until I had paid it off. The response I got from them was actually kind of like shock that I went through that and didn't tell them. So the next time I had financial troubles, I did reach out to them, and they gave me great advice and great support. And I think that was an excellent learning opportunity. I had one of those experiences in my 20s, hiding it, and one in my 30s, being open and honest about it. I feel so much closer with my parents now than I ever did through my teen years, which I don't think is that uncommon. I feel like these videos show us that we're not broken, that there's nothing missing within us other than we have a strong desire for more connection. I think they reveal this hunger that we want like something stronger, something slower, something deeper, something more tangible. I remember a period of time where everyone was posting grainy photos on Instagram. And it was like, yeah, because those photos look like photos you can actually touch. And we're in such a digital age. We want something real. Polaroids are making a comeback. Like, I know that's just kind of one little like scrapped example, but I do think that we're striving so much for authenticity. There's a reason that AI influencers are kind of like making us cock our heads a little bit. There's a reason that the more unpolished you are and the way you just show up as you are goes further. I don't think there's anything wrong with you for feeling lonely right now. I just think this is a great example and a great time to realize that commenting same or me too on a photo is not connection, and that if you feel that little like loneliness drop again after it, listen to that. That is a sign from your body. That is a signal that you want more. You deserve more. Go for it. Find that friend, find that group. There are so many. I'll link them below. There are so many ways that you can connect with other groups in your area, so many ways that you can reach out and find your people and go for those deeper connections. This is how we use social media, right? Like, this is how we use connection tools to really connect. I want to close with a little reflection, and I want you to drop these in the comments below. I want to know who really sees you, who makes you feel like you don't have to be anybody else, who makes you feel like you are transparent, like they can just see all of you and they love you for it. And where in your life could you let yourself be a little bit more seen? What are the things that you keep kind of cozied up to yourself that you could be louder about? And I'm going to challenge myself to do it too, because I think this entire channel is something that I've just been a little bit quieter about. I've shared it with a handful of people. I'm trying to be louder about it. That's kind of been the journey at this point, is to be loud about something that is inherently cringy to some people, or that I know everyone to my face is going to be supportive, but who knows what they're really going to say. That's fine. That's fine. Because those aren't your people. I know that's such a cliche line, but somebody who talks about you in a negative way or has a judgmental thought about you that they don't challenge, that's not the person for you. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. You have a home with people who radically care about you, even if you haven't found them yet. So go check out some of the links that I posted. See if you can find somebody in your area. Yeah, I just think this is so interesting, and it really brings up like the ultimate unifying experience, right? We don't all just want to belong. We all just want to have our place, and I think it's so interesting that we're so desperate to have that, and so in need of it, like in the same way we need water, air, and food, that we are sharing the parts of ourselves that are like the icky ones. I think it's so beautiful. I love the stripped down nature of social media right now. I think it's getting more and more exciting because it's fun, right? I'm old enough to know social media back when Instagram was a blue icon. It was an Instagram. Like, you took a picture when you were out with your friends and you posted it. And the only filters were like the 5 they had. Everything was in lo-fi. That was like the coolest filter. But there's something so cool now about reintroducing that type of social media. That's everything I have for you guys today. Comment, subscribe, like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.